Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's session. We again are having another interesting topic, conditional formatting in Excel the right way. And our presenter today is Tolulope Olowookere. She's going to take us through, as usual, a practical way of getting you to be very well grounded and not just, listening passively, but you'll be able to practicalize what she's walking us through. Uh, she's already put in the chat the link for you to access the practice material. Okay, so this session is brought to you by your BizEdge Nigeria and MHS Analytics Inc. Canada. So your BizEdge, where data analysis, Power BI, financial modeling, training and consulting company, we use a we use a practitioner's approach, which means we don't just train from like book knowledge. We actually provide solutions. We are fully into this. The same way we're doing this webinar, we create content, we consult for companies. So in essence, our training reflects also what we do when we are consulting for other companies, for clients, and for them to pay an external consultant. Usually they believe that the consultant will bring in more value than what their internal team are doing. And so now imagine we are now trainees as if we are showing you the secrets of how we do what we do when we consult for clients. So that makes us a bit different from many other trainer and training institutes where the trainers just have training knowledge or they are only knowledgeable on one specific role of work they work in and they just do the training as a side hustle. But in our case, we are fully focused on giving you value, making sure the training is relevant, applicable to your work, and give you practical scenarios of how we've used what we are teaching you and what you can do immediately at work to get value out of what you have learned and deliver that value at work. So all I'm saying is if you have a training need or you know someone who has a training need, you're in good hands with us. And if you also need consulting services in data analysis, Power BI, financial modeling, Excel, SQL, again, you're in good hands with us. I'm going to share the link to you accessing some of our digital resources. Some are free, some are paid. So it's all up to you. If you're interested in financial modeling, most of the materials that we've given as a template, as a mock exam, they are free. So that's one advantage you can take now before we find out that maybe we should start charging for them. But now you can get them for free. I'll put the link in the chat. MHS Analytics is a Canadian entity. Same business operations, just same offerings, just a different market entirely. So in case you are based out of North America, then you might feel more comfortable reaching out to MHS Analytics, North American ham. And today we have Tolulope Olowookere with us to present to us on conditional formatting. She's a Microsoft Certified Trainer. She's been in this space for about 5 years, working across Excel, Power BI, and SQL, and a whole lot of data analytics solutions across different companies. So she's someone who also is got a very effective way of passing knowledge. She's very focused on hands-on approach, which you will have noticed in all of our sessions that she has presented. You'll find out that our session is always very practical, and I think she believes in the best way to learn something is to do it. So I think you will find our session again today very valuable because you will see her actually do a lot of what she is trying to pass the knowledge of across to us. So I'm going to get out of the way. I will share a LinkedIn link in the chat so that you can add that to your network and you won't miss out of uh, any information she passes, and expert knowledge that she shares on her LinkedIn. Okay, so Tolu, I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. so you can take full charge.
Thank you so much, Michael, for the warm welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us today. My name is Tolulope Olowookere, and I will be taking us on conditional formatting the right way, as Michael has earlier introduced. So I have my slide up here. I'll just briefly go through it. What is conditional formatting and why do we even use it? First of all, I would like to explain, or I would like to emphasize that conditional formatting is a very powerful feature in Excel, and it's a great number of people that use Excel don't use it to the maximum. They use it but not efficiently, or they don't take care. They don't use all of exhaust its benefits, if I may say it that way. Some of us just use it once in a while, and when we get stuck, we just try to use some other shortcuts that might not even be efficient as the case may be. And the good, beautiful thing about conditional formatting is that it allows you automatically change the appearance of cells based on a specific condition, just like the word conditional formatting. Formatting just means adding color, making your font bold and stuff like that, based on a condition or based on a rule. So, what are the benefits of conditional formatting? We do this mostly to improve the appearance of our reports, or to even give more understanding to our reports. So you can come across a report that is just blank without any formatting, and it just looks boring. When you see icon sets, you see shaded, or let's say colored fields, cells that have colored fields, by just looking at it, you can have a grasp of what the reports may be telling you, even without doing so much analysis. So how it works is very easy and straightforward. The first thing you need to do is define your rule. Rule in this case may just mean condition, and then you apply the formatting. As easy as it seems, it may be a bit technical once you start working with formulas and the rest. So enough of my talking. I have dropped the link to the Excel sheet we'll be using in this class, and I'd like us to follow through. If there are any questions, please just drop them in the chat box. I'll be glad to help. So let me head over to Excel right now. Okay. So you should have this sheet. Once you open it, you have this. I have 4 sheets within this workbook. This is the workbook that I have shared. You can just download it, open it in the Google Drive, and download it as an Excel sheet so you can work with me. All right, so this is an example of maybe a sales report for some salespeople across different cities within Nigeria, and how much they've made in revenue and the units of the item that they've sold. So it looks okay, but we can make more sense out of this by applying conditional formatting. The first thing I would like us to know is that conditional formatting can be found in the Home tab of the ribbon. Just here, yours might look a bit different, but if you look closely, you'll find it. So this is conditional formatting, and there are many buttons that you can click. The user interface is even quite enough if you know how to use it very well. But sometimes you might need to apply formulas and the rest. So we're going to start with the first one, highlight cell rules. Highlight cell rules just applies fields to whatever you are applying the conditional formatting to. So one rule of thumb is whenever you want to apply conditional formatting, you must highlight the area that you want that formatting to be applied. So you have to be cognizant of the fact that, okay, for example, you want to apply conditional formatting on this revenue column, you must highlight it. So your cursor should not be somewhere else while you are going to conditional formatting, because it will not know where you're referring to. So first things first, I'll highlight this revenue. So the question here now is, I want to know how much anybody who has made a figure higher than 150,000, I want to color it green. So I want to highlight that cell based on the rule. And my rule here is anybody that has made above 150,000. So looking at this, you can see that it's greater than. So I just click on greater than. And in this space provided, you can write 150,000. And once you do this, you can also choose the color that you want to be applied. So I think I'm comfortable with this green, and I hit OK. So with this, it's simple and straightforward. We see that every number that is higher than 150,000 is the conditional formatting has been applied to that number. But 150,000, the first number itself here, we want it to also be applied. So we want it to be like greater than or equal to 150,000. So to do that, sometimes you might, if you're a pro, you might just quickly use formula, but if you prefer to work with the options that are being provided for you here, there's a way you can tweak it. So remember, it was this greater than that we chose. So instead of greater than is just limited to only greater than, but we want something like greater than or equal to. And from this list, we can see that. So what we do instead is to highlight the cells, the cells or the range that we have applied the conditional formatting to, and then we click on manage rows. So with manage rows now, you have the ability to edit the rule that has been applied. So you can see at the bottom here, you can see the cell value is greater than 150,000. So, but we want it to be greater than or equal to. So from this drop down, you see there are other options that you can choose from. And in this case, we just choose greater than or equal to. You can also play around with the formatting. You can do what you would like, but I think I'm fine with what I already have. So I'll just say cancel and then I say okay. So what happens now is that you can apply this. Once you click on apply, you see that this 150,000, the first value here, has also been highlighted, and then you click on OK. So what happens is that you've been able to edit that conditional formatting that you've applied to take care of greater than or equal to. So it's easy peasy, and it's a bit straightforward. So another thing that could also be interesting to notice, you might want to highlight cells that are above or below average. Looking at that highlight cell option, there are many other things that you can try out your hands on. Same way greater than works is the same way less than works, also with between and equal to. Then let's say, for example, these units sold that we have here, these are the quantity that was sold. Once I highlight this whole, you looking at the bottom of the screen, that's on the at the bottom of the screen, you see average, count, and sum. So this shows you the average number from this whole range. Imagine you want to know the number of people that have sold quantity that is above the average or below. You can use conditional formatting also for that. So you see these top and bottom rows. There's also above average and below, and it works same way. So for example, we want to highlight all those that have sold below the average that we have here. We know that the average is 24.375. I want to highlight them red, and it does that for us instantly. So it works like this. If you prefer to use a formula, it also works either ways. For using this, is pretty straightforward. Looking at the highlight cell option also, you can see that there's one for text that contain or equal to. So text that contains usually for data types that are in text format. So for example, I have this city column here, list of all the cities that we operate in. And I want to highlight the ones that are for example, Lagos City. So it has even typed it for me, but of course, you can change it. So if the city is Lagos, I want to color it something like yellow fill and fine. And with this, you can also sort by color. You can also filter by color. You can also apply another conditional formatting, even like more than one conditional formatting on one column or range. So what you need to do is just to text that contain, as I did earlier, then maybe I say something like Abuja, that's a city. I want it to be green, for example. And I say, okay, so I have two conditional formatting working simultaneously in one column. So that's the beautiful thing about conditional formatting with highlighting cell rows. But that's not where we're going to stop today, of course. So something else I would even like to speak about is working with what's it called? Top 10 or bottom 10. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward also. You can do stuff like you want to know the bottom top 10 revenue in this list. So first of all, I'll prefer to clear this row in this list. So clear from selected cell. And I want to know the top 10 performing revenue or top 10 items. So you can change this to top 10. Oh, the manager says he doesn't want to see top 10 anymore. He wants to see top 5 or top 3, for example. And I will choose the green. And I say, okay, so these are the top 3 sales that have been made. So some have made in Abuja and the other one has been made in, what's it called? The other one has been made in Ibadan. So before now, if you were not so, you did not know how to use conditional formatting as much, what you would have done is maybe sort this column or sort the whole table from from the highest to the lowest. And after that, you just color the first 3. Yes, it's going to give you the right answer, but it is not going to be dynamic. So what happens is that, so if, for example, this number was written in an error, and then the person that was supposed to write, person was supposed to write 170,000, person now wrote 270. So if I change this to 170, you see that the conditional formatting left this cell. But if you did that method of sorting and highlighting the top 3, that formatting will not be applied because it's not dynamic. But with this, conditional formatting gives you the seamless and easy move on, because there's a formula working behind the scenes that you cannot even see. So that's it about highlighting cell rows. We'll move on to icon sets. An icon set is something that many people would always like to see, because it gives you this icon set here. It gives you information. It says who is top performing, who is mid, and who needs to pull on more weight. But with icon sets, it can be very confusing. So this is what I mean. Remember, as I said, you have to highlight the column that you are referring to. Now, this table speaks to sales, sample sales reports, names of the sales agents, what they did last month, and what they currently sold this month. And then there's a percentage change. So the formula is just this month divided by this one minus 1, and we have this. So in this list, we want to apply conditional formatting. So anyone that did better, that means they have a positive percentage. We give them a green arrow. Anyone that did not do as much, we give them yellow arrow, and anyone that is below 0, we give them a red arrow or something like that. If we highlight this and we go to conditional formatting and we come here to icon sets and we just choose maybe the first or the second one, it gives us something. But although it looks like it's making sense, for what we want, it doesn't really make sense. What's happening here is that the highest number is what is recorded as green, and any number between that below that number and greater than, like it's in the positives, is giving it yellow. Even this that's positive is even giving it red. So it's not so clear on what is happening here. So what we need to do in this case is that we have to set the rules right. So yes, the computer has helped us a bit to know how to apply the icons, but we need to set the rules right. So to do that, you just highlight the portion that you've applied conditional formatting on, then go back to your conditional formatting feature on the tab, on the home tab, then go to manage rules. Now it brings up where the rule that has been applied, then you go to edit rule. Now the rule that has been applied is what we can see here at this portion. First things first, and the first hack to note is that most times you most likely need to change this type, the data type. You're changing it from percent to a number. And you're going to change this also from a percent to a number. That's the first thing to do. Why do you have to do this? Now, in this list that we have here, this 100% you can see here, it just means 1. Because, okay, maybe I should go back a little bit. Let me not go too fast. So if I change, let me do this calculation again. This divided by this minus 1, and I hit enter, gives me 1. And then these are numbers I can see. So 2 is the highest number in this case. 1 is equal to 100%. 2 is 229.6. These are numbers, but because I changed the format to percentage, that's why I have 100%, 229%, and 2. So let's have this at the back of our mind while we work with how to restructure the conditional formatting itself. So what we need to do now is highlight this row, this column, then go to conditional formatting, manage rows, then edit row. So now, looking at what we have here, the format style is icon sets. The icon style is this. So if you prefer to change it, you can, but I think I'm comfortable with what I have. Then, now look, this is the way we usually read it. Before we read that, let's make sure that we change the type to number. Change the type to number. All right. So we say we want a green arrow when the value is greater than or equal to 0. We want a yellow arrow when the value is less than 0 and greater than or equal to 0. I want a red arrow when the value is less than 0. So there's something that we need to do here. In this case, we want a green arrow when the value is greater than or equal to 1, right? From 100 or from 100% and above, we want a green 0. How do I say? A green arrow, thank you. And then when the value is less than 1 and greater than or equal to 0. So if it's greater than or equal to 0 but less than 1, we want a yellow arrow. And then if the value is less than 0, we want a red arrow. So you just make sure that these two are in number formats and read it the way it is being the way I just read it here, and then you click on OK. So once you do this, you can say OK. What happens now is that 100% you have green, 66% in this case, we don't want, we didn't apply, it's giving us a yellow because that's what we want, because it's less than 1 and greater than 0. And anything that's less than 0, all the negatives, you can see that they are all red. So that's just the technical part when working with icon sets. You have to set the rules that you want the icons to follow, and you'll get it that way. Okay, I hope we've gotten that. Then I'm going to move on to the next sheet, the sheet called formula. All right. In this sheet, I'm going to explain working with formulas in conditional formatting. And that's the part that can be a bit confusing. All right, so if you go to the conditional formatting tab and you click on new rule, for example, this new rule, there's an option here that says use a formula to determine which cells to format. So if I click on this, I'll have a formula bar or a formula tab that is made available for me to type in whatever formula I want to. So most times you might be like, what am I even supposed to type here? How do I even start the formula? But remember, in Excel, every formula starts at equals. So whatever you even try to do, it always starts with an equal to. But let me try to explain something to us. So the way just give me a minute. We have two tables here, and the heading for this table is highlight the values and highlight the rows. So we want to format the value if it is greater than or equal to 200,000. So I can use two methods. I can highlight this place, go to conditional formatting, highlight cell rows greater than, I type in 200 to 200,000, and I want to highlight it green, for example. And it does it for me perfectly. One greater than or equal to 200,000. So I still have to manage the formula, edit it, and make it greater than or equal to 200,000. And I say, okay. So it has applied this for me. So imagine John makes 200,000, 200. It changes to the highlighted color, meaning the applied conditional formatting that I have made. And we're fine with that. But what if your manager comes and says, or you even want to show more effort in what you're doing to an extent that you want the whole row to be highlighted, not just the column that has what you are formatting. So what I mean is you want both John and salary, Peter and the salary amount, Maya and salary amount to be highlighted, and not just the salary. So what you do in that case, the way you have to, well, first of all, one thing to note is that you have to use formulas in this case. Using the normal conditional formatting here might not necessarily work. So you have to manually assign the rules you want to be applied. So in this case, remember that I said the first thing is to highlight where you want to the rules to be applied. So in this case, we're going to highlight two columns at the same time, not just salary column as we've been doing. So highlighting the two columns, we go to conditional formatting, then we click on new row. Now, then remember we're using formula to apply this rule. So what is this rule going to be like? We want the value here. So I click on the formula bar to bring up to activate it. And then I click on the salary that I want to be applied. So I want to make sure that this salary is greater than or equal to 200,000. So now, if you are someone who is not very self-referencing if self-referencing is still a problem to you, you don't know whether to lock the column or to lock the row, I advise you learn it properly or have a grasp of it, because this is where it really matters. So clicking on H8, what we can see here is an absolute reference, $H, $8. But if you do this and you say you want the value here to be greater than or equal to 200,000, so you can also refer to this cell here. So C4, you want to format it in a way that, for example, you want it to be bold, you want the color to be dark green, you want the fill to be light green, for example, and then you say okay, right? And then I say okay. Nothing happens, nothing changes, and it's just because of the cell referencing. So in order to get the right thing, you make sure that however you're stating your cell reference, it must be a mixed reference. That means the area that you are applying the conditional formatting on, or you're referring to, in this case, our salary column, must be a relative reference. And what I mean by that is you want it to be, a mixed reference, excuse me, a mixed reference. You want to lock the H column because you want the formula to be applied on the H column, using what you get on the H column to be applied throughout. That's what's happening here. and then you want it to move from H8 to H9 to H10. So you have to use mixed referencing in this case. So I'm going to remove the dollar in front of H, and with that, it's a mixed reference, and H8 can change to H9 and so on and so forth. So once I click on OK, and I click on OK, all the values that are greater than 220, see that they have been highlighted on both sides. So the column for name has been highlighted, and also the column for salary has also been highlighted. So that's how you highlight the whole row when working with conditional formatting using formulas. All right, I hope you got that. It can be a bit confusing, but you can drop your questions in the chat box. Let's go on. So now we have this like to-do list or list of things that we want to done before the end of a period. So these are all the tasks we have to do, and these are the corresponding due dates. And imagine we have today's dates. So I just type in today's dates here. We want to find out who is, or which tax are we defaulting in, which tax do we still have more time for, and stuff like that. Okay, so let's go on. I just use the equal to today function to get today's date. All right. The conditional formatting option here also allows us to use internet. Relax. Okay, correct. It's awesome. Sorry for that break. All right. So the conditional formatting option here also allows us to work with dates. This highlight cells, there's a date occurring. So let me show you how that works. You highlight the cells, then you go to conditional formatting, highlight cell rows, then date occurring. It has some form of let's say time intelligence in some way, because you can highlight the cell rows that are occurring next week, next month, this month. So we want to see all the tasks that are due this month, for example. Then we click on OK. So you see that you have all of them available for us. All the ones we have available this month is what is being highlighted. So working with dates using the highlight cell function can be pretty straightforward. All right, you could also work with dates when you are using a formula, for example. So for example, if you want to highlight the cell, if it is equal to today or greater than today or something like that, in that case, you might need to use a formula. So I'll just clear the highlighting on these rows. Sorry, I'll just clear the formatting on this portion. And then I want it to be applied on both the tax column and the due date column. Then I'll go to new row, then use a formula to determine which cells to format. All right. So remember that this is the cell we want to format. So B6, remember it also has to be a mixed reference. So $B6. Want to highlight it if it is. So want to know the ones that are due before today that we've not attended to, for example. So less than today. You can use the today formula in this formula bar. Close the brackets. Then we want to apply formatting. For example, maybe we want to color it blue. We want to make the font bold and want to make it dark blue, for example. And then we say okay. And we say okay. So all the values that are less than today, 17th of May 18th of May. All these ones, their due date is coming up very soon. So we need to work on them before today, before today comes. Well, we're already in today's date. So it works that way. It works that easy. It can be that easy. Excuse me. All right. Another thing that I would like to add is let me go back to the first one. Okay. To the icon sets sheet. And this is color scales and data bars. Although I'm not really a fan, but let me just show us how it works. So color scales works like a heat map kind of thing. But it doesn't, okay, this even looks somehow good. The higher number have darker shades and then the lower number have, sometimes it looks a bit overwhelming. So you might want to use the one tone color or something else. Or better still, I prefer to use data bars, and the higher the value, the longer the data bar. Okay, with this, if you change, for example, this 7 million changes to 6 million, it changes, the data bar becomes shorter, something like that. The highest value in the list affects the bars. But the problem or the shortfall of this, or the downside of this data bar, is that it only applies to a single column. So when you're working with it on multiple columns, it doesn't work well. So most times I just even prefer not to use it. Instead, I just use what's it called? Formulas, or just highlighting the rows. So clear from Smith here. So I clear that, highlight rows. Yeah. Another thing we can also use, it just came to my mind now, is using formulas in a way that, if you remember here, we used average. We can also use formula to perform something like that. So for example, in this revenue, you want to know who is the highest, who made the highest revenue. You can do something like, so what I'm going to do is to highlight this and then clear all rows. Want to know who made the highest revenue. So we can do something like this, highlighting the rows. Now we want to apply it across the whole row. Then we go to conditional formatting, new row, formula. You want the value here. So I have to put my cursor in the formula bar. I want the value here to be greater than or equal to the maximum value. So I use the max function, maximum value in this list, and I close my brackets. So remember that this has to be a mixed reference. So let me just, so $H4, no dollar in front of 4. Must be equal, yeah, it can be greater than or equal to the max. So I want to apply formatting. I can make it, can make the font bold or italicized. Can even make it, let's say, dark. Or then okay. Sorry, I'm not done with formatting. Then we fill it also with something like a light purple, and then say okay. Say okay. So this is the value for the person who is making the highest sales using formula. So you're not just limited to what you have here. Formula makes it even more dynamic. It makes it gives you the free will to give a condition or give a rule as according to the kind of data sets that you have. So that's it about today. Is a really short session, but I just wanted to clear the air on conditional formatting, because I see some people shy away from it sometimes, and even they use other methods that are not as efficient as what conditional formatting here can do for you. So I hope we learned a thing or two either ways. Thank you, everybody,
Yeah.
for your time.
There's a question
All
that
right.
someone raised, and so it was about, I think, 10 minutes ago. He
Okay.
asked that. So Osman asked that, how do you use conditional formatting with pivot table?
Okay. It's going to still be the same way we use it here. Can you, okay, the only difference, I can't see any difference per se. There's no difference. It's still the same thing because you either use the formula method, or you can just come here and use highlight the rows or top or bottom rows. Or maybe should I quickly do should I quickly create a pivot table and see how it will work in that case? Okay, let me just create a pivot table for the sake of this one.
Thanks. Okay. So,
So I have a pivot table. I have
oh, okay. I see
okay.
another angle he has brought to it, but maybe when you are done, then I will mention the other thing he has asked with
All
regards to
right.
pivot table.
Okay. So I have the names. Oh, this table is a bit long, so I'll just use city. In the city and the amount of revenue that they made, I'll just adjust it in this way. So sorry, I mistakenly double clicked. All right. I want to, for example, highlight or apply conditional formatting on the maximum number. So I get to new row, use formula. So this must be equal to, I make sure that it's a mixed reference on the greater than or equal to the max value from this list. And then I close my brackets. I make sure I give some form of formatting. So maybe the font can be bold, the field can be right. I say okay. And I say okay. So it applies the same way. It's the highest value in this list. This is the maximum value in this list. So I don't think limited in any way because it still works here. So what's the other question he asked?
Okay, so he now said, even with the expand and collapse, so let's say maybe you had
Okay,
gender or something
okay.
to row, and it becomes two levels now.
Oh, I see what's happening here. So it's applied to the okay. And it's because let me see what's happening here now. Before maximum value. Okay. So now the maximum value, let me just edit anyways, has expanded to, I'm trying this out first time anyways. Let me see. Nope. So that method does not work. Does Usman have a way we can do it, a way that it will be more efficient?
While I wait for his feedback, so
Okay.
what me I know that if I want to allow, because to me it's the same thing with, let's say I'm using a dynamic kind of it could be formula or pivot table too, and the rows will be changing. Maybe
Mm,
today I've got 5 rows and tomorrow I might have like 20 rows.
mm,
So what I sometimes do is in the apply to, like when you went to the conditional formatting edit.
mm. So the
So
whole column.
Yeah, so in the place where it applies to, so what changed in this place was that when you added a new, no, if you go back
Okay.
one step, so it was the apply to that changed in this place. The apply to place changed
Mm-hmm.
back for some reason to A. That was what made F to start showing. But the
Okay.
what I will do first is I will have set the pivot table first of all into the final state. So it won't be like in the middle, like we did here where we had already set the conditional formatting. We now change
Mm.
something in the pivot table. So I will have made sure I've set the pivot table to exactly the final structure I want. But then,
Okay.
like Osman now said, if the user will still have ability to like expand, collapse, and all of that, how will I make things show in a specific way that it does not break up? Maybe I even had filters and they filter out and they had more items. So what I do is I use a dynamic range for the apply tool. I use
Okay.
I can use a mix of index. I usually use named range. I'll put the dynamic range in a named range so that
Mm-hmm.
that way, if any reason I need to edit something, I will go and edit the named range. Then that named range, I'll have one name range for the apply tool so that that's
Okay.
where the color change will be reflecting. Then I will have another name range for the formula
I'm
side.
like, so-
Yeah. And if I'm lucky that where the color should change is even where the figures are, then it might just be one name range. But if I want a situation where it is the number that I'm doing formula on, but it's the label, maybe the state or something else that should be flipping color, then I will end up having two different named range. Then in the name range, what I usually do is, I don't know if people are familiar with the ability to make a name range expand in range or collapse, where we use this the most efficient is usually just doing the beginning column dot like column, then index, then you select all of where it can ever get to, and then it will now be comma count a counter, all that is in that expanded range. So that way it will just be expanding and collapsing. So other times people use offset. There's always this
Okay.
ongoing conversation that offset is because it's volatile, it's not the best to use. But either way, as long as one does that logic that can expand and collapse range, like not really expand and collapse range this way, but can shrink with the range and expand when the range is more. That's the only thing I see that is different that I will do differently for a pivot table. If I
Mm.
know that it will be changing in
It
number
will
of rows.
change.
Okay.
Okay.
Any
Thank you.
yes. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, I'm looking at the chat. Okay, so I think Osman kind of thumbs up. I think he's satisfied with the demonstration we have done. I'm looking to see if there's any other comment from anyone. Any question from anyone else?
Yes.
Mm, all right. So if in the absence of any other question, what I'll do is I will share the community page, the webinar community page. So if you are not already a member, you should join. That's like it said, community page. That's where every information is meant to be. Announcement of new sessions. If we ever need to, maybe a presenter decided to send us something to pass to everyone. That's the official place where we will send it to everyone so that, as you know, we don't have your email and all. So it makes things easy for both of us. You will know there's a place you will see all of the details that relates to this webinar series. And at the same time, you will know that we are not, if tomorrow you no longer want to be part of it, you just yeah, I think you discontinue, like you remove yourself as a member and you will not be getting information. Unlike if we are sending you things directly, we won't know if you're no longer interested. And more importantly, I think there's a ability for you to even interact with other attendees and all. So make sure you try to be a part of the community. Then I have shared Tolu's LinkedIn. I'm going to share it again. You can connect with her. And two more things I need to mention. The practice file for today's session, in case you missed the post we made about how you can grab the practice file, I am sending that again. I've said that. Then if you need if you want to access some are free, some are paid, you know, free training and practice materials, like resources, digital resources. I've shared that now. And I think lastly is you should just help us feed a feedback form that helps us to capture the types of topic you want to see more of. And with that, I think I've shared all the information I need to pass across. For those of you who are also part of the Power BI community, sadly, we will not have a Power BI session today. We are having insufficient speakers. So, and I understand because we do our session every week. There's always that's the con that comes with doing it that frequently. It means sometimes we'll run out of speakers because everybody has spoken and they are wanting to take a break. They don't want to speak like 4 times to the same on the same platform. So it's part of it. But for us, there's no competition we are trying to win. There's nobody we are trying to impress. So we are not too worried. We're going to try, but we are not going to, because of that, say we won't do it weekly anymore. Because the truth is, as long as we create the opportunity for the members to get value, then that's all that matters. The fact that we are trying our best to get speakers, we are trying to make sure once a week you have an opportunity to learn something, whether new or old, but learn it from a different perspective, interact, ask questions, in a safe environment too. What I mean safe is I've seen some webinar series where it's too tilted to like advanced users, people where you find out that I'll have a question as a newbie and I'll be afraid to ask it so that I don't look stupid or someone will feel like, how come you don't know that? So we try to make us much more um, everybody friendly, which sometimes means that it's a lot more beginner friendly. So maybe experts will be looking at the title and say, okay, when is this title something interesting and they join? When the title is something they are already familiar with, they might skip. But beginners, they always know, regardless of whether the topic is something that is so new, latest, complex looking, they know that they can always ask any question and we will try to answer. We're never going to make it look like you should have known that. So in summary, I'm saying, yeah, if you have suggestions of speakers we can reach to, it would be nice too, so that we can increase the pool of people we are talking to, because we are talking to people we know. You know people we don't know. You can suggest to us. Just you can give us. I'm typing it in. You can give us speaker suggestions via email to webinar I'm typing it anyway, so you see it, webinar@yourbusiness.com. So that way the list of speakers we are reaching out to becomes more, and the chances that we will not run out of speakers become smaller, which would be good. And I don't have any more thing. Except maybe usual marketing. If you need training, reach out to us. But I'm really grateful for everyone who's joined, especially if you're a football fan. I heard that today is one of the special days, and for you to, not be glued to your TV, not to be somewhere else where you won't be able to participate, for you to come online and join. We are really grateful for that. And thank you very, very much. So I think we have come to the end, except if there's any comment by anyone or anything else Tolu, do you think there's anything else we need to say that we have not said? Maybe the
No,
recording. Okay, let
okay,
me
yeah,
just
the recording will be ready tomorrow.
tomorrow, and I'll share the link where you can always access. past session recording, and by tomorrow you'll see today's on there too. Okay, so thank you everyone. Thank you Tolu for the
Thank you,
session.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, and see you next week. Have a wonderful week ahead. Bye to everyone. Thanks, Usman, for the question. Bye.